Good morning. It's Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy Vet, Certified Doer, and the Laced Up Legislator for the House of Delegates, 89th District. Good morning to you on this Tuesday, September 27th. Can you believe it? It is the end of September. We are getting ready to move into the final quarter of the 2022 year. As you get yourself ready for fall, I'm ready for sweater weather if you're like me. Today it's going to be a high of 80, but when you walk out the door, it's only going to be about 63 degrees if you're walking out this morning. So make sure you got your little sweater, your little jacket or something, because those two, the cold in the morning ain't nothing like the sunshine in the afternoon. I'm grateful to have you guys here. Wanted to first, express, my... I know I have been missing. We've had a lot going on here on our side as we get little citizens ready for this school year. We are 2 weeks in, so I want to say to all of the caregivers, the mothers, the fathers, the grandmas, the cousins, the uncles, the neighbors, everybody that goes through the production of now having the little citizens in their lives get ready for school. I stand with you. I stand with you this morning. But really make sure before they go out this morning in yourself, it is going to only be 63 degrees walking out the door. And it isn't a warm 63. But if they got shorts on, it's okay. It'll be 80 degrees at the end of the day. I know sweatshirts and shorts don't make sense sometimes, but here we are in the Mid-Atlantic. Good morning, Mr. Little. Good morning, Mr. Martin, Richard, and Stephen. It's good to see you guys this morning. But I did want to put some things on the plate. Just manage your expectations for what things might look like over the coming months or coming weeks or so for me. Just like my family is in the midst of transitioning. A family member, my mother, is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, so I ask that you keep her in your thoughts and prayers as she prepares my grandmother for transition. And that is not an easy thing. I'll say when I was 17, I became a caregiver of my father, who was losing his battle to cancer. And, when you're helping a loved one transition, it's never an easy thing, right? It's never, there are a lot of business decisions that have to happen before you can mourn. But with that, in that same vein of the preparation of little citizens, but also the preparation of transition, because if we know one thing, you all, is that we will have a last day on this earth at some point. So I'm going to encourage you guys to, COVID shut us down a bit, but if you have life insurance and if you have your elder parents, uncles, because I know there's a lot of big families in this area, just make sure your things are up to date. Really have real conversations about what it looks like when they take their last days. Now I know this is kind of weird, but at one time I had my children write their will and testament. Because they have things that they may just want us to have. And I think I may have said this on a live before, but my daughter, my youngest citizen, she bought her own bearded dragon, and I looked at her will and testament, and she didn't really leave anything to me. She just pretty much said, "Mom, you can have what you want, but Dad will take care of all the things." And I was like, "Well, you didn't have any specific things you wanted me to have?" She goes, "No, you don't have the time." And that made me realize I do need to, help me spend more time and do things. Well, not condolences yet. Well, we've been for about 2 weeks doing the transition period. Thankfully, we do have a unit down there, and my mother was able to go up to where my grandmother is. But I just want to be really real about the business of death. I mean, because this past week I had a meeting with Senior Services of Southeast Virginia, and we talked a lot about how we can be helpful to our senior citizen population or seasoned citizen population, recognizing that now people from the age of 50-ish, right, sometimes even younger, young families all the way up into their 60s are caregivers for their parents, their uncles, their cousins. And so there's two pieces of these resources that we kind of have to have in our back pocket, or at least that I'm seeing from my end, that we have to have in our back pocket for people like you to give to folks. Because what I found is some of my senior friends have been like, Delegate Glass, I want to say this, but like my spouse, and I've had this happen 3 times. My spouse passed away 3 years ago. They took care of everything. I don't know what to do. I haven't paid taxes. I haven't done all these things because my spouse took care of it for my whole life, right? For our whole marriage. And that's real. So we are working with the senior services. We'll probably be pulling in, hopefully soon, the sheriff, and this will be next year sometime, some tax officials and folks to really give some resources, not only to our senior citizens, but to those who care. And for some of those y'all who are in neighborhoods with folks, right? Like my neighbor, y'all know, y'all see him. If you've been on these lives, Mr. Lafayette next door, he'll yell to me, girl, just make sure I ain't in here stinking. And when I get to the hospital, make sure you got my pajamas on. I don't want my butt out in the back. So if you care for some folks, it's just an opportunity. We're going to try to create opportunities to be resourcing and transportation and companion care and things like that. So let's get to the news. It's hurricane season. Look at me. We are still in hurricane season. I know that we don't necessarily we don't have what Florida has going on there, but what I will do, I'm gonna take a little close walk with you guys, because I think my bag is right here. I want you to consider something, okay? There is a program in our city called CERT. And you can say it with me, CERT, right? C-E-R-T, CERT. You want to see this? I'm going to show this to you. CERT, right? Community Emergency Response Team, right? One of the first things that I got involved in here outside of my civic league was I got involved with CERT. And say it's better to be CERT than sorry. And CERT, I learned how to respond to emergency situations. I keep a couple dollars in here, this bag, because I'm now a person in my community that can respond to emergencies. I keep some twine in here. One of the biggest tools that I got in this bag, when I learned about how to set up an emergency hospital if there's a disaster in my neighborhood, what is my first steps and things like that. Yep, Grand Rise, I want to show y'all again. Remember, CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. They typically have classes at the top of the year, but you can always go to the city website and look. Now, I have not had to deal with a natural disaster here in the city of Norfolk or an emergency in that way, but I have several times had to shut off somebody's water in the neighborhood that was flooding. Do you hear me? Get ready, right? You'll see CERT, a lot of those people work some of the events that we have. But I say that because there is an opportunity for us in the city, right, to be a part of something if there's an emergency, right? You don't have to be a bystander. You can become CERT, and you get this cool backpack, right? I mean, I don't know if you would do it for the backpack. I didn't do it with a backpack, but I was really grateful to be resourced, and I know I've had a lot of good training that's helped me with helping my neighbors and when things have happened. I remember I ran up the street to go cut the water off because it was flooding through the intersection. I was like, look at me. Yes, Terrence, I love it. He said, I'm CERT certified and I have my CERT bag. I mean, it's a good feeling. It is a point of pride. It's something I have to check my CERT bag every year just to make sure things are up to date, make sure the batteries are good, make sure stuff is good to go. But in saying that, I want you to know there's still space to make sure that you have some of the things you need. Should we start getting some crazy rain, this is that season. We know what we're in right now. What I'll do is I'll talk to my comms teams about putting some information about just emergency care and having the emergency things you need in your house, because that's super important. I'm gonna go to the state stuff. I know I'm where I'm at. You guys hear the birds? I'll just say this house. I said being in the house is gonna be weird. I have 2 birds, a bearded dragon, 3 dogs, and I said that is all privilege because I just hear money going out in my pocket. If you got a dog, you know that dog food sometimes is upwards to $80 at this point. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. All right, so most of you should have gotten, and I'm going to use this one as an example, should have gotten one of these in the mail. You know, let me know, did you get one of these in the mail? Did you get this in the mail? This Department of Elections, right? This should have come from the Department of Elections, from our local registrar, right? This is official. It'll say this is good mail, okay? This is from the Norfolk Office of Elections. We are in the midst of early voting. If you're on the Facebook page, you know that we are early voting. That's right, Miss Rosalind. Good morning, right? If you got one, thank you, Benita, for letting me know. If you got one, put a thumbs up in the chat. This little notice, super important, right? It says important November election dates. It's telling you when voting starts, because put it out your mind. It ain't no such thing as early voting. Voting starts on a specific day and voting ends on that first Tuesday. So voting started on Friday, right? You can vote downtown. Election day is on the 8th. Here's where the most important piece is for you, right? Yep. Okay, this is where the most important information is. Where is it? All right, what it's going to tell you is it's going to say, all right, where am I at? Here's your voting center. Some of you in different parts of the city, and you might have friends in different parts of the city that have their polling stations may have changed, because we did have some shifting of polling stations up in the Ward 1, Ward 2 area. So this is like really good information to share. Good morning, Vashiri. They have the information for the registrar's office there, and then it'll tell you your district in your ward. All right, your Senate and your House district. Here's the deal with this. And so if someone asks you about this card, when it says, hey, I see it says district, the entire city of Norfolk is in Congressional District 3, right? That means you will have Bobby Scott on your ballot, and the other gentleman's name, I think it's Terry something. You'll have that 3rd Congressional District, right? You will be voting on the 3rd Congressional District this go round. You also will be voting on all of your local small wards. So we in Norfolk have wards 1 through 5. Most city councils, most of it's city council, school board. You'll be voting on those things. Now you'll see where it'll say Senate. I hope that's clear. Senate, and then House. That's for next year. That's your state districts. Everyone in Norfolk has a new state and Senate district, because we just went through redistricting. We talked a little bit about that before. We've talked about it, and we'll keep talking about it till we all know what the heck happened with redistricting. That happens every 10 years when population shifts. We got to make sure the places and spaces and the districts that we're in are evenly put together. But this is important, right? The most important piece you can take out of here is where your precinct is. Verify your information. Now, if you don't trust this card, right? Let's say you like, yeah, but weird stuff come in the mail about election. I agree. Weird stuff comes in the mail about the election. On the back here, it says you can go ahead, and it tells you if you want to check your information, you can go to elections.virginia.gov/register. Look, we now have same-day registration. I said this before, I'm going to say it again. So if y'all pull up on your friends, pull up your uncle, cousin, sister, friend, all those things, and they like, it's the last day to vote, which I believe is November 5th. Let me double check, make sure I ain't lying. Or November 8th. See, I was lying. I was thinking of last year. November 8th, right? The last day to vote is November 8th. All right? Let's say you like, yeah, I really want to vote, but I forgot to change my address. Right? Okay. Or you're like, yeah, I want to vote, but like, I'm not registered. So there was a law passed already that says we can do same day registration. So no excuses from nobody. Like, you can get to the ball on the same day and get at it. All right. Okay. So I say that because I was going into elections There's a huge race over there in Virginia Beach that'll really determine what our Congress looks like. If some of you may have had Elena Loria as your congressperson, and now there's no pieces of Norfolk in the 2nd congressional district. As I told y'all, we're all in the 3rd, but that seat is really, really important because it's going to determine the makeup of Congress. I remember how I told y'all, this is a team sport. I really do enjoy being able to individually vote, but sometimes when you don't have more players than the other team, you lose a lot of votes. So that is what's going to be happening in Congress. And as we know, moving forward, if there's any way that you can go out and support Elena Loria, these are things that have to happen, right? Because I'm just going to say the things that are being promoted are contrary to a lot of our values. All right. So on the other side, I am planning to do a whole thing on Youngkin's transgender policy, and that's a real thing. I was supposed to do it last Thursday, but as I told you, our family was dealing with some things, so I had to transition and shift a little bit. Young people are not playing with us. All right. I know that if there's one thing that's really profound to me, that race is critical. My apologies. Thanks, Tannis. It is super critical. If there's one thing that doesn't fall deaf on me, and I want y'all to, for humor me for a second, close your eyes and think of some of the pictures that you see during the civil rights movement. The pictures, I think a lot of time people see, the March on Washington, the dogs. What I remember seeing that sat with me as a child is I remember seeing all the kids, all the teenagers, right? Especially in Alabama, all these kids. I was like, man, kids were all the high school, walkouts, all the things that the children did. And the boldness of the elder citizens to say, even though we know that peaceful protesting could be a life or death thing, could do some serious bodily harm, the kids were participatory. And that looks different nowadays, right? We can't knock what our kids do now because the vigor of the racist, sexist, ableist, classist, structure is different, right? They're not just sicking the police on them. When the police do something and it's contrary to what we believe policing should look like, we can express our outrage, but the system, the way things are done is very different, and our youngest citizens are finding ways to do exactly what those kids did back in the civil rights movement, whether it was with the buses, whether it was with schools, whether it was at dining checkouts. John Lewis, you hear him talk about that, being a young man, being a teenager in this movement. And so when we look at these policies that are different, right? This ain't the police, this is policy that our executive branch has put out. These kids have slated to walk out on Tuesday. And I think that's today. And Vince, you can correct me if I'm wrong, this Tuesday. There's a organization that they develop, right? Because they've got to be a bit more strategic now too, right? They've got to do, their activism has to do things a little bit different. They're creating organizations. Could you imagine? They created an organization called PrideLiberation.org. I say that again, PrideLiberation.org. That is a student-led, statewide organization with youth leadership. And there are some positions available for some statewide advocacy. So if you know a youth where this particular issue is important to them, I need you to go ahead and share that PrideLiberation.org information with them. I say it again, it's Pride, Pride, Liberation, Liberation, PrideLiberation.org. Student-led. They have to do things differently because they have different tools, and this is a different game we're playing. All right. Going on to the next. Sorry, getting you. Let's round this out with some good things. And if you have good news, right, go ahead and put it in the chat. If you have news that you think I need to be sharing, let me amplify what you got going on. Do you all have some things going on this week that you think, hey, Jack, tell the people what I got going on? You see, this is my painting hat. if you have things that you would love for us to share, please put it in the chat. Let me know, and I'll shout it out. Or look, just tell me the good news. Was your birthday last week? Happy birthday. Did you have an anniversary? Happy anniversary. Did you not choke out your little citizen during the first 2 weeks of schools? That's strength. I'm just kidding. But it's tough. Just know I'm in a house with a bunch of teens. Y'all keep me in your prayers, okay? All right, so some things going on this morning. And like I said, things. And a shout out to, I'm going into these things, but I just saw somebody jump on. Shout out to Miss Shar Covington. I want to help y'all understand about how like we all lead our charge in the best way that we can. Miss Shar is the one of the ROTC leaders at IC Norcom, but is a member in our community, and I love it. Her picture is always her in her uniform. I'd be so like, oh, okay. When this summer, when we had one of our first events called Norfolk Can Fly, and we are in the midst of planning Norfolk Can Fly Part 2 for next summer, Miss Shar, again, a community member, and I member in Norfolk, and I think you're closer to the Lambert's Point area, brought her ROTC students to this event. Mind you, again, I said IC Norfolk, meaning she's over there in Portsmouth. She brought these kids to this event, these young adults. And they were the highlight of the things. Now, this Saturday, they had a competition, a big competition at Lake Taylor against many of the other ROTC units in the area. While I think the only local unit that placed, only unit, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Shar, I think Norview placed in the top 3 in our area, and then there were some schools out on the peninsula that took in Virginia Beach and Peninsula that took maybe first and third. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when I think about the struggles that I have with my teenager and the structure that community members, like the Village is a verb, y'all. Remember we said, Norview, Norview placed in top 3. So shout out to Norview. Shout out to Norview ROTC. When I think about the village that is needed to show up for our little citizens, to show up for our seasoned citizens, I look at people like Shar and I say thank you, because she spoke into my son, right? So I just want to publicly say this to you, Ms. Shar. I appreciate you. I told her, give him a little punch for me. I keep saying it because I'm going through it. Again, keep me in your prayers. I have teenagers. But it is village is a verb, right? And it is super important that if we're villaging with each other, that we recognize our folks that are both in the community, in the school system. We hear a lot about parents' rights. I think the messaging now is like, hey, our kids are not ward of the state, right? I understand that. But when we're talking about the systems we have in place, it is a partnership. Parents have to have really good partnerships to do this, to make the best citizens. So I appreciate people like Ms. Shar being a good partner in the community for the kids, and also at the school, and we need more of that. We also need to take and spend some time with these folks, right? Yes, we need to spend some time with these folks. So Greek Fest is coming up, right? Greek Fest is going to be October 13th through the 16th. I'm saying this because October is this week. October on Saturday. Did you hear me? Look over there. October is right there. Hey, October. This is real. October's right there. So my friend Vance said this is his favorite event in Norfolk, the Greek Fest. And he goes 2 to 3 times a year. So thank you, Vance, for giving us that recommendation. As I said to you all, if you have things that you feel like when you want me to shout out, please tell me. It's a great place, good food. There's some, there it is. Let me see. Okay. Yep. Okay. So I'm looking at the chat. Sorry. As a parent to a 53 and 51-year-old adults, you will survive. There is hope for you. I need this encouragement. I cannot overstate it. I don't feel like I'm going to survive. I don't. And this is the first time, I'm doing this, and as an elected, so there definitely is a balance, and this is the first time I'm doing it with them at their age, and I do believe that I have a great kid, just when he's not in the house. I'm just kidding. He's great in the house. Is just, recognizing that we're doing better, right? When we know better, we do better as villagers. That we know that there's a lot of hormones and things happening. I don't mean to rant about children. I'm just really struggling. I just don't want to make any myths about it. If you see me in these streets and you're like, "What's wrong?" It's probably because I'm just trying to figure this parenting thing out. I'm trying to be a good parent and be a good wife and be a good representative, and some days are better than others. Some days I'm really excited about one aspect or another. Other days I feel like I'm failing. I feel like wow, like I'm really failing here. Like what's happening? But I think I'm gonna take a deep breath because that was real. But I am grateful for all of the people who show up and are sorry. I'm grateful for the community that shows up and recognize that we are all holding a lot in our hands, and I don't necessarily want to center what's happening in my world, but what I know is like every person I meet, every time, you all are all going through something. And all of our time is valuable. And we are in a time where I am hoping that grace is so important, that we give those things to each other, because there's a lot of expectations of being right here, right now, and having all the answers or having everything together. I'm not talking about me specifically, because some of y'all on the job, it's that way, right? So I just want to, let's wrap up. Let's wrap up. So I'm going to wrap up by saying, that as you receive grace, go ahead and give it. Please make time to have fun with some of these activities that are happening, that will be happening. I think I wanted to check my calendar to kind of let you guys know where I'm going to be over the next week. I may be checking out, because as I told you guys earlier, I may be heading out of town to support my mom with helping my grandmother transition. It's helping my mother transition and just, showing up for people. Travis said yesterday was exhausting. I took a nap. Yeah, when you're showing up for other people, it takes energy, right? You don't have to be working out to give off energy. That brain of yours is working. So I will have an ask of you, right? It's 7:00 on the dot. I'm in my kitchen talking to you. That was Usher, okay? So what I will say is hydrate. Try to get rest. And can you plan something fun this, for October? Is there a festival? Is there, for the parents out there, and I know I'm talking, and for everybody. I know it's weird to say this, but there is a website called My Active Child. I'm telling you, it's not just, it seems like it's just stuff for kids, but I found stuff that I was like, I want to do that. So it's called myactivechild.com, and it's all of the stuff in Hampton Roads. It is a beautifully built site that gives you all the things that are happening. And I just want you guys to make sure that you are catching your breath, that you are getting ready to vote. If this came in the mail, right, for you, make sure that you take a look at it, verify your precincts, right? What else did I say? Get ready for hurricane season. We are already in it. We've been in it. Look at this, right? CERT. Consider becoming a member of CERT. There's so many different ways to contribute. And I'm glad that this is one of them that we do. Okay? Right, I'll give a hug later. Just call. Miss Rosalind's my neighbor, and I love her. I appreciate you. Study support. Yep. That's what you got to do. Okay? So, until next time, I'm Jackie E. Glass, Mama Navy Vet Certified Doer, Laced Up Legislator for the House Delegates, 89th District. If I do not see you on Thursday, I will see you on Tuesday. If I'm here and I'm available, or if I'm away and I'm available, I will definitely make sure that I get on and chop it up with you. Travis, CERT is community. Before I go, community emergency response team. At the beginning of this live, we talked a little bit about it. It's better these be CERT and sorry. We are first responders to any disasters or emergency that may happen. If there's something like, a big hurricane and all these good things, we can set up hospitals, we can help our neighbors and all that good stuff. Great program, great way to get involved. Okay? Oh, Diana! Listen, Diana is in Nevada and she's amazing, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Okay, I quit. I don't literally quit the job. I mean, we're just quitting for the morning. Long day ahead. Make it a great Tuesday. You deserve it. You deserve a great Tuesday. So make sure you give it to yourself and drink water. Bye. Take care.